Hey, what's everybody? I've been playing around this week, been working on a project in Svelte, and I'm really falling in love with it. I'm not gonna lie. So during this project, I was trying to create a carousel component, and I actually found some really good tools. Uh, One of them is I'm gonna cut over to my screen. Was Svelte Carousel. Carousel. It's a great package by Beyonk. Beyonk. I really like it. It's what it is it's a wrapper around a JavaScript library called Selma. So really, it's just creating a component. It's implementing Selma and then rendering that to the DOM. So what I wanted to end up trying to do was make a carousel component without React harder. um, I wanted to try to create this just with the native tools within Svelte and not bring any external dependencies. So that's what I'm going to try to do tonight. I got some notes, and we're going to see if we can pull this off. If you're not familiar with Svelte, Svelte.dev, it's great. It's similar to Vue, but what it does is all the Svelte dependencies can be brought in as dev dependencies, and everything compiles down to vanilla JavaScript. None of the frameworks are involved in the actual bundle. It's bundle. You can use Webpack, but it comes stock with Rollup, which was also developed by Rich Harris, and it compiles everything down to vanilla JavaScript, and then it brings it into your bundle, and that's it. So that's the plan. So I'm just going to kind of walk through it, and we'll start working on it. So I'm going to kick over to my other screen. So let's go over and we'll start with CD Svelte Carousel. You'll see I've already done it in here, but I'm going to do the same thing. So I just kind of work through it, and we'll just call this carousel. So this is a command. We're running npx command dget, which is just going to pull the repository, the template repository, straight in and then name it carousel. So it's pretty quick, it's pretty small, and carousel. All right, so now we're inside, and I'm going to run, just pull in the dependencies because it does not come with those in because we're just pulling in the Git repository. And while we are doing that, let's give it a second. Yeah, it's really not much. See, it goes pretty quick, and then I'm just gonna go. I'm playing around with Atom recently, so bear with me. Uh, okay, so you'll see what we originally get. Okay, so this will be my setup, and I'm just going to run it so you can see what the template, the Svelte template, comes up with. Give it a second, it'll bundle it, and we can go ahead and go to localhost 5000. So this is what our Svelte, our template comes with, typical hello world. And we're going to start clearing that stuff out, and I'm just going to do some basic setup and prep for it. But this is what we get. To show you a little bit around the source folder and what we have our main.js, and this is where it picks out our DOM element, and the template, it just takes our entire body, and we're passing it props. We're just gonna go ahead and get rid of that, and you'll see we have a hot reloader. It's gonna go undefined over here, and let's take a look at app. So I'm not gonna go too much into the details of what how all of these things work, but in the script tag up here at the top, like you see, if you're familiar with Vue, it looks a lot like Vue. We have script tags wrap all of our JavaScript in our component, and it's scoped with our component. This is our actual DOM element that's being rendered. It has to be wrapped. Well, actually, it doesn't. It does not actually have to be wrapped like React in a single component or a single element. And then we have everything in style. My ESLint, when I was playing with Prettier earlier, will rearrange these. Sometimes you'll see these 3 elements in different orders. It doesn't matter, it'll still compile down, and the Svelte compiler will recognize it no matter how it is. What made me switch to Svelte? Actually, I've never used Vue. I've used React, and I like React. It's really cool. It's really powerful. I just started playing with it because I was curious, to be honest with you. I pulled down, I saw it was, I think it was Jamstack Conf. Laurie Voss did the presentation on the state of, he works for Netlify, so the state of Jamstack and what the popular frameworks that were going out there. And there's this one little dot that had very high popularity but very low use, which was Svelte. And I was like, that's what I want to go learn. And I just watched some videos, and there's some really good stuff online to figure it out. It's really simple. Hopefully what I'm doing today will show you just how simple it is and what some of the most powerful things that are inside Svelte, what you can do with it. So the big thing that I think is really cool is it has a lot of animation and transitions built right in. It comes right out of the box, no external. And you're going to see we could do some really cool things with those animations. So, hey, what's up, Jason? It might be mine. We tried to get the kids in bed so they'd be quiet during this, but they never seem to go to bed when you tell them to. But okay, so getting back to our app.svelte. I'm just going to clear all this stuff out, the styles, and I'm not going to worry too much about it. And also, what we want to also have in here is in our public, right? This is where we're going to have our global CSS and then our HTML document where it looks just like a React one. You have your normal HTML5 template, and you've got a DOM element that you target, and it's going to fill into here. So what I'm going to do, just for the sake, I'm going to edit my global.css for the purpose of I'm going to make the body element fill everything, but our component is ultimately going to fill the entire width of whatever its containing component is. But make sure I'm following my notes. HTML body, add picture. Okay. So I'm going to go into my global CSS, and I'm just going to get rid of all of that because I don't need. I'm not going to mess with it. What I am going to do is I'm going to take out this padding, and I am going to make the width 100%. Nope. You killed naps, bedtime. Oh no, we try to do bedtime too. The older kids, we try to tell them to like read during that time, but kids will only do what they do. Yeah, I like Sapper too. It takes a little bit more care. Svelte was developed like to be used alongside some other things, so you can input this into and target different, just like with React. It's a library just like React, so you can use it in conjunction. Sapper gives you like static site generation capabilities with Svelte. It's a framework kind of. I work a lot in Gatsby and React, so that's why I immediately went to Sapper, because it has routing built in automatically and static side rendering built in automatically. But you can build up from just a Svelte file and bring in your own routing. There's no opinions on router. There's no standard router used for Svelte, but you can bring one in. And there's a few different packages that are pretty good. Okay, so getting back to it, I have my width, my body width. I'm going to take it out to 100%, and that's pretty much it. I don't think I come in and change anything else in here throughout, so I'll just leave that. And I'm going to I got rid of this prop, so let's get rid of that. And let's get rid of what we have inside. I don't even want main. I'm just going to get rid of that. And what I'm going to put in here, well, first let's import. I haven't built it yet, but let's bring it in. Import carousel from, and I haven't made this yet, but it's going to be in components. Forget my spelling. Carousel and we have to actually put the file extension on here .svelte. And just like in React, now you have that as an accessible component, carousel. And it's going to yell at me because I don't have anything in here yet, but I'm going to create it. New folder, and create our components. And in here, we are going to create carousel.svelte. All right, so now we have a fresh component. Let's save that. I'm gonna get a whole lot of compiler errors in here. Oh, that's a problem. And yeah, it's happy now. So we're rendering nothing in. And I think also my global CSS, just for, because I thought it looked better, and for this, I made the background black. Because black. All right. Alrighty, so let's get our 3 parts in here. Script. My emit is not working for some reason. Script. Oh, that's going to make this go a lot longer. Okay, and then I'm going to have my style tags. Man, I do have a plugin in Atom for this, and I just started using Atom, playing with Atom with Svelte today, so forgive me if I don't have all of my plugins right. There is one that works, but I practiced this in my VS Code setup, which is a little more slick right now, I guess. Okay, so see if it's going to recognize. Oh, there we go. Now we got our div. Now let's give this a ID. This is going to be our entire wrapper, this first div, and I want it to go the entire width of carousel component. Declare image. I want this to be my entire carousel container. Carousel container. And inside of there, I am going to have another div. Again, my emit, I tried earlier and my emit is not giving me my full capability, so I'm just going a little bit slower. Carousel. And here is where I'm going to render my images. Okay, now what I need to do is I'm going to bring in, I've already got the, let me control. I am going to bring in, give me a second. Public, and I'm just going to copy this over. All right, so what I did is I just dropped this public folder is where all your static assets are going to go. And I just dropped in a directory with images, and I've got 6 images in there. And what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to just pass them in as props. That's my plan for this component. So what I want to do is, let's save this, and I'm going to go back into app.svelte, and I'm just going to create my images. And again, in practicing this, I originally just did it as an array of the paths to the individual items, but it made it a little bit easier. I didn't have to like parse out things to make like a concise ID. So I ended up making this an array of objects that gives me the path for each. So I'm going to do path is equal to, and it's going to be, I can reference these as if, because this is all going to be compiled down into like all together into the build. So I can reference it directly in my images directory, and then image1.jpg. And then I'm going to give it an ID of, not being super creative, but image1. And then I want to copy the 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 images in here. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it, and then just second. Let's sort of renumber all these. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what I want to do is I want to pass these images as a prop into Carousel. So the way that I do that is I'll say export let images, and then whatever you put in equal will be your default value, or you can just leave it like this. I'm not going to have a default for this because you have to pass in images for a carousel. I want this to be reusable, so I'm just going to leave it as a declaration. And then now in images, I'll just say images, just like in React, is going to be images. Now, what I love about Svelte, and I know there's some advocates, Scott Talinsky is a big Svelte advocate. He says this is his favorite. I think he wants to get it into React, but you don't have to do images equal images. If the name is the same, you just leave that out, and that will compile down to be exactly what you want it to be. Okay, so now this images is being passed in, and let's just render those in to our DOM. So here's the cool, some of the cool syntax within Svelte. I'm going to do an each loop. Instead of doing like a map that has to return JSX in React, what I can do is I can just say each images. So that's the variable that I'm pulling in, the array like object, the iterable. And then what I'm going to reference each individual one is image. I don't know if that's good or bad syntax, but I'm just going to call it image. And then the way I close off that loop is to /each. And this is the templating syntax for that. So now I can just render a image, or img, it's not like an image. Source is going to equal images, or image. That is my looped object dot, what I call that, path, I think. Sure. Yeah, path. So that's going to be the path, and then alt is going to be equal to, I'll just call that image ID, and that should be good. Let's see what happens. Oh, I've got one image in there. So that's a little bit big. So let's pare those down a little bit. And we're going to come back and redo some of this later on. This is what I'm going to do inline for a reason, because I want one of my props to be able to pass in to be the width of the image. And these variables you cannot reference down inside of your style tags, anything that's in your script. So this is one that I'm going to have to do inline. So I'm going to go ahead and just start building it out that way so that I don't have to come back and retype a bunch of stuff. So let's do style is equal to, and I'm going to return a string template where the width is equal to, we'll call this, let's just go ahead and pass this in. So I'm going to call this image width pixels. So now we got to pass that in as a prop. So export let image width, and I'm going to go ahead and set a default value of 300. Whoops. It's equal to 300. And okay. So now I've got a standard width for everything. And if I want to pass in, again, just go ahead and start making that look pretty. And we'll give image width is equal to 250. Why not? And see, now we have something that we can pass in that prop. Okay. Now I'm going to go and change this to just for demonstration purposes. I know you're not going to do this in your body. I'm going to make this display flex and Flex direction is column. And let's justify content, center, and let's align items, center. Okay, now that puts our entire component down in the middle. Again, whatever you target is going to put it in there, and you can style that however you want. But for demonstration purposes, we'll just make the entire body centered to make it look nice and pretty. Okay, now back into our carousel component. What we're going to need now is, I think we're going to add some styling to this too, just to start controlling these and making these line up, because we want them to be a carousel. We want to be able to move those images back and forth. So I'm going to put these all in a line. I'm going to target our carousel images. ID carousel images, and we want that to be so we want this to be responsive, so we're going to make this display flex as well, and we are going to justify content center and align them so that when we have taller ones, they'll come back to the side to be centered as well. Align center. Let's see. All right, now we got all our stuff in a line. Now you'll notice what we have is we have some overflow. I don't think this is our first image. Let's see, that is, oh yeah, so we do have the overflow, but I'm still going to have, I'm going to explicitly put in here, I'm not sure it's necessary, but I'm going to do it anyway. So carousel container, and we're going to make this width 100%, and we're going to make the overflow X hidden. Okay, so now what we have is we have our carousel container, which is the width of the screen, or the containing element, which is body, which is in this case the viewport. And then our carousel images extends outside of that to the left and the right. And that's going to allow us to get it going back and forth once we work in the animations and the movement. There's another styling thing that I think I put in here too. I'm going to make a prop, and I'm going to call that margin is going to be the top and bottom to be 0, and I want the left and right to be another prop that I pass in, which I'll be image spacing, and add that to the margin, and that should be good. And let's add that in. Export let's image spacing is going to be equal to, give it 20 pixels. Should probably put in the pixels. Oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, images spacing. That's not what I want. Cancel. Okay. And I want pixels too, man. I'm messing this up. So now we got some spacing in between each one of them. And if I want, I can also put in here, pass in as a prop, image spacing is equal to, we'll make it 15, just so we can see it get closer together. There we go. So we just added in another prop that the user can add in to customize things a little bit. So now we want to, this is where things are going to get a little bit more interesting. Oh yeah, I don't want it in a carousel image. I want to make sure it shouldn't do this, but again, I'm going to do it explicitly to make sure this doesn't happen. Flex wrap is no wrap. Okay, and that's going to, again, just being explicit to make sure that, you know, a row of images, one doesn't kick over to the bottom. And now we want to actually start making this a carousel. This is the part that gets exciting, and we're going to start bringing in some of the cool things that Svelte can do. Now, outside of my image, I'm going to put in 2 buttons that are going to control this. I'm doing buttons because I want ultimately this to be accessible and to be able to tab through. So, button, and let's see if my image is working. Button ID left. What is going on? Button. I don't know why I did that. Well, ID is equal to, we're going to call this left, and we're just, right now we're just going to put it left, and let's put in button ID is equal to right, and right. Let's see if that comes up. What am I messing up? Oh, I guess I got to give it till ID. ID is equal to right. What am I messing up? Oh, that's what I'm messing up. Okay, so now we got a left and a right button. And let's see, do I have this, what I want, flex, column. Did I make carousel container column? I did not. Okay, I'm gonna make this display flex and flex direction. Is going to be column, and that should stretch it out. Okay. We're going to play with those a little bit later. So now we got 2 buttons, and we're not going to worry about, we're going to move those around and put those into position a little bit later because I want to start getting in a little bit of functionality into those buttons. So let's bring in some controls. So first, we want to pass in, this is the way that you establish event listeners in Svelte, which is really cool. On click, super easy. On click, and I'm gonna hit rotate. I'm gonna call this function rotate left, and rotate right. And now we need to declare those. So let's declare them as const. I'm gonna do them as nameless functions, anonymous functions. So rotate left is equal to e. I really shouldn't need the event. No, I don't believe I need the event. I don't believe I need the event, but we'll leave it in here. In case I gotta come back to it. And we're going to need a rotate right as well. All right, so we have both of these functions that we can call. Let's start figuring out how we're going to do this. I'll come back to this in just a second. Let's bring in the animation. So one of the directives that Svelte has available to it is the animate, right? So you have transition and animate. So we're going to bring that in. Import, and this is called flip from, and this is in the Svelte package, so Svelte /animate. Okay, so now we have something called flip. Now, what flip it does is it allows you to take one of these looped objects, something that you go through, you map over an array, and when you change the array, it will automatically update the order on the screen, right? It'll rearrange those elements based on the order of the array. Some of the things, here's what you need to accomplish that, though. You have to have a key in for each one, which just like you have to have a key when you map over an array in React, you have to have it only in flip or when you're using these animations. So what I'm going to use for that is I'm going to use the image ID, and that just lets the reactivity model, the way that it renders things out, to keep track of what is what. So I'm going to use that, and then now to animate those, all I got to do is add in the directive animate flip. And we can add some parameters to that later, which we're going to get to, but this is how we add it in. Now, let's actually change our array so we can see this work. Rotate left. So just like in React, this rotate left function needs to do, based on the way animate works, is we're going to have to change the order of the array. But and if you think about what happens when we rotate it left or rotate it right, we're taking the element at the end of the array and putting it at the beginning, or the element at the beginning and putting it at the end. Now you can't use array methods directly on the array, like using push, pop, shift, and unshift, because that will not trigger a re-render in the reactivity model. So this is going to look really ugly, but it's because we have to be able to recreate the array and then reassign it. And once it reassigns, then it triggers the re-render. So instead of doing images push, inside there put images.shift or image.shift to do, I know that's like kind of the appropriate way to do this, but since we have to do it this way, this is how we're going to do it. So images is equal to, and we're going to use a little destructuring here. So if we're rotating left, if we hit the left button, we want it to go right, which means the one at the end has to come to the beginning. So the last element of images is images dot-length -1, and then we are going to destructure the rest of images. Images.slice, and then we're going to do 0 through images.length. I'm going to have to fix this. -1. We'll see. Well, let's give that a try. Let's see what happens. So we hit left. Oh, look at that. And you'll see the one that was the end transitioned. You can't see it because of it being hidden. It transitioned to all the way to the left. You know what? No, I'm not going to do that now. So the one on the end shifted to the right. And what Svelte is doing is it creates a JavaScript that animates the styles to allow it to make that transition. It calculates it all and then transitions it. So the same thing will happen here if we do images, and we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to have images.slice, and we're going to take this one, we're taking the first element and putting it to the end. So we're going to slice 1 through images.length, and at the end we're going to put images 0. Now we've been able to mutate that array, and boom, look, it zooms left and right. Man, that's a lot of fun. So yes, the images are in front of and behind. We're going to deal with that here in a minute. Actually, I think that's what we're going to do next. We're gonna go ahead and clean that up. Now, the best way I found to do this when I was playing with this is I just have to directly touch the styles of that element. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the opacity down to 0 until the transition has been made, and then bring it back to 1. And that's the reason why I had the overflow on the left and right side of the screens, because I don't want to see that as it passes by. So when it reappears, it's off screen. So it disappears off screen, transitions across the screen, and then reappears. So that's what we're going to try to make it do now. And let's go ahead and do that. So in each one of these are, we're going to need to identify what is our transitioning image. Transitioning image is equal to, and on rotate left, we're putting the last element. So we need to get the last one. So images, the last element of the array. So images dot length -1. Okay. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to grab that. We're going to say get that element, document dot get element by ID. And remember, inside of that element, we have the ID. And this is the reason why we did this, so that we could have, oh, and I didn't actually do that. So I need to add that so I can actually target it. ID is equal to, and it is the image dot ID. So now we have an ID associated with it, and we can grab it here by getting that transitioning image, image dot ID. So now we can target that. We can grab it, and we're going to change the style dot opacity is equal to 0. And I'm gonna show you that now because we're gonna run into a little bit of a problem. So boop, oh, we don't see it anymore. But the problem is way off to the side, it hasn't reappeared yet. And if I go ahead and tell it to document, let's just, and I make that 1, we're gonna have a problem. And here, we're gonna see it here in a second. Look, oh, we can still see it. The reason why is because this animate function, what it does is it's created a JavaScript that allows that transition to happen. It happens asynchronously. So it changes to 0, it renders the animation, and then immediately turns it back on. So that all happens immediately in one cycle before it even we see the movement. So what we have to do is we have to slow down when it does that. And the way you can do that is there's a out-of-the-box function called set timeout, and it lets us set a timeout without doing it the standard way. So we're going to set timeout, and we don't want to just execute that. We have to pass it a function. So we're going to make that a function, and then we have to tell it how long to do that. Comma, and right now we're going to say 1 second. Control save. Now we should be able to. Oop, that did not work. Let's see. Why did we have that problem? Let's see if that makes a difference. No. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why I did that. Let's figure out why our set timeout did not work. Let me see if I'm going to bring up my references real quick. Trying to remember why that would be doing that. Rotate left, it should disappear. Control see if I need to return that. Okay. Well, let's move on and see if we can come back to it in a minute. So and this is going to be 0. And this is, that should be good. Oh, okay. I just saw the problem because it reappeared. So the transition is taking, it is working, but the transition is taking longer than I had it sleeping for. So you saw it reappear here. So what I need to do is just make this longer. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make this another prop. What is the speed that we want this transition to happen? So let's give it that export let. We're going to call this speed is equal to, and we're going to give that an original of 1 second. Now, what this lets us do, we can also solve that problem. We're going to need to synchronize how long it's not visible with the transition, right? And this is where we can add in some parameters to this flip directive down here in each image. So we can do that by giving it a duration, and we're going to give it that speed, and then we're going to make both of these the speed as well. So now they will all be synchronized. So now it should work. Let's see. Ah, look at that. Now we're starting to get something that looks a little bit like a carousel. Alrighty, now you'll notice if you go through that really fast, that opacity hasn't come back yet, and that runs into a little bit of a problem, but we're going to deal with that. We can deal with that by making, first of all, the default a little bit faster, and that solves a little bit of the problem, and we're going to deal with the rest of it in a little bit with a little bit of styling. Okay, so let's do that. Let's see, what do I got next on my notes to make sure I don't get out of order. Okay, yeah, so this is where we're going to solve this problem with a little bit of styling. What I want to do, because it also makes it look really cool. Oh, first, I'm going to deal with one other little problem. You'll notice that when we have, this is responsive, we can make it smaller and bigger and it stays centered. That means if you have an even number of images inside of this carousel, you're not going to have one in the center. So that's just something that is going to have to be dealt with. The way I deal with it is the easy way: get rid of one. Always have an odd number, and one will always be centered. So now let's add the mask to it. We're going to add a little bit of fade to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add, let's see, WebKit dash mask, and I'm going to do mask, and we're going to add in a linear gradient, and it's going to be to right, and we're going to make it transparent. Forget my spelling. I was an infantryman. My bad. Okay, and we're going to make it black in the center from 40% to black. You know what, I think did better if we had like 20%. Yeah, I'll make it 30. We'll hit the in between. Through 70%, we can adjust this. We want to transparent. All right. What is, oh, I guess. Carousel images. Why am I not getting that? Check my references. Let's see if I'm getting this on here. So I'm getting this. It's actually passing in. Do a little cheat from my notes. See what I'm missing. It was right. Maybe we'll figure out a little bit later why it is doing that, just so we're not hanging out too long. See stuff. Because I think I have to have the other one relative. When I had problems with this earlier, do I have? Okay, this might be the problem. Display flex. But got something different on my display. Flex center, no wrap. Yep, everything's good. Justify content center. Maybe. Is this what's causing the problem? Position is relative. And let's see if this is. Getting my entire component. What? Here we go. I've got that. That is correct. Now, where is my mask? Time to go full cheat. This is my style from my practice, and let's get my container. Now, what was different? Overflow X. What was it? What did I do different? What I got differently on there? Justify content center. I am not seeing what I have differently on there. It must have been a typo in one of my styles, but yeah, I'll just be happy with it. And I'll fix all the styling and stuff later. But now what we have is we have this little bit of styling that also kind of helps a little bit with that reappearance. And it fades to the left and to the right. Now let's style our buttons here and position them. So we are make sure our style position controls. Okay. Now, what I want to create, I'm going to demonstrate what something called slots are. What it looks like Jason's telling us. On container, who's Phantom227? Is that Walter? What's going on, man? On container, justify content. What did I mess up on there? I didn't see it, but I got it now. Okay, so we have our left and right. We want to style this. Now, slots. This is where we're not going to want left and right in here. We're going to want to put in something that looks a little bit nicer. I created beforehand just an SVG that I'm going to put in here, but we're going to get there. So let's demonstrate what slots are. Is it allows you to pass in elements inside of your carousel. Right now I've got a self-closing element, and I can put in there elements inside. So I can open this up and, slash carousel, so I can close that off. Now anything that goes inside here will go into something called a slot. And then you have name slots as well. So you'll see this doesn't change anything at all. So what I want to do is I want to be able to pass in something so someone can customize their controls with whatever they want. But I want a default, so let's do that now. I don't want left, so let's put that in. And let's give it a default. And like I said, I drew this in Inkscape earlier. It ain't pretty, but it does the job. SVG, and we're going to put that in here. So slot, and we're going to give it a name. Slot name, and we're going to give it a name of left control. And later at the end, when I demonstrate what slots are a little bit better, when you pass stuff in, I'll show you. So whatever goes in here is called the fallback. So I'm going to give it a fallback, so it's a default value. And Control C, copy. All right, so this is just an SVG that I drew in Inkscape, and it works. It does the job. So get everything aligned. So now we should have. Oh, it's not liking that. Should have known. Where's my left button? Wow, the correct one. Button left control SVG. Let's pull this out. I am by no means an expert in SVG. I just want to use it so that it is scalable. Paste. Okay. And in my practice, I made this. I'm just going to put this in. I'll explain later what I did. Control scale. Let control scale is equal to, I think I had 50. I'm just going to copy and paste the entire thing in because it's just, this is taking too long and I don't want to get into debugging my SVGs. Button, and get both of my button elements. All right, replace both of those buttons. Okay, so you'll see inside here I still have the control, and then I just pasted in my SVGs. And it's still not liking that very much, and I don't know why. Yeah, let's not do any of that. Let's do this way. Left. Control copy, and then we're going to put in here. This is our right control. Make this a span. This is my right. Oh man. Left. Right. Okay. Oh, that's part of the problem. let's see if it'll let me do my SVG. Left control SVG. It's not liking that for some reason. Probably because of styling. So let's just save that for later. Carousel component controls, prop template. Get back down on my notes, control buttons, okay. Format carousel image, synchronize flip, did that. Yep. Show how to import Svelte, okay. Let's position these first. Let's go to our buttons. That might be where some of my problems are coming in. And that's called right and left. So we want both our right and our left to be position absolute. And we're going to want them to be top 50%. And then we're going to transform, translate y negative 50%. And that is part of the problem that I was having earlier. Okay. Let's see what's going on. So our right is showing up here, but our right is here, but we need to move our right over to the right side. Right. And we want that to be right 0. Actually, let's make it like 10 pixels so it's not right up against our edge. And then we'll make our left, from the left side, it will be 10 pixels, and boom, there we go. So we got our two buttons. And let's style them a little bit better. Actually, I don't even need this. These are, the styles are scoped to the component, so I can just use button and not worry about messing anything up. So I want the, for now, color, I'm going to come back and change this white. I want the background to be transparent. And let's see, now we're good, and I want no border. I want border to be none. And just, again, I'm going to be concerned because if you look here, I can't, I'm hitting tab and it's not getting it, so I want to also have button focus. I want outline to be inherit. So we should have, nope, I'll just say, what is it, default? Oh, what are my options? Let's do 1 pixel solid. That's probably not the best to do, but at least now I can still get, I can have my accessibility. So we're good to go with that. Now, I'm probably just not liking that I have. Yeah, that's the problem. It's not liking that I'm using those characters. Okay, good. Fair enough. Let's go to the left. All right, so now we have our left and our right. So that's, I mean, that's looking pretty good. What I'd like to do is I'd be able to like to get that SVG working so it looks a little bit nicer. Copy. Let's try this one more time and see if we can get that working. Why is it not doing that? Why is it not like? I bet it's going to tell me in my console why it doesn't like that. control color. Oh, control color. Oh, because I had another thing. Okay. Sorry, these are two things that I put in my example. Export let control color. This is something we want to be able to pass into. Color, we'll make the default is equal to white. Actually, we'll make it 50% gray. 444. And then I think I had another one in here that was control color. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to work on that button. And let's get our other one. We're going to fix that in just a minute. Control scale. All right, so let's find out now why we lost our centering. Let's inspect those and figure out what's going on. Let's see, so we have our carousel images component, which is good, and then we have this, which is set down. Let's see. Let's change our button to be, let's see, this height is equal to auto. We're still getting that drop down for some reason. Seeing any difference. Oh, I didn't align the items. Okay, sorry. So I didn't align the items in my styling for these, but now we have two buttons. I didn't want to get too hung up on this with our, so we can move on and show. So now we have a functioning carousel. And this is what we're looking to get after when we did this. So the last thing that I want to show is how these slots, these name slots, I gave them names, how we can go about passing something into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop our server, and we're going to add. This is again not a part of the component. This is just demonstrating how we can pass something in. And there's a really cool library, icon library called Svelte Feather. I want to add that to my dev dependencies. Dev Svelte Feather icons. Okay. All right, so we added that in. Let's start our server back up. And we're going to show how we can pass this in. So I just happen to know that import, and inside of this package, we can import chevron left icon and chevron right icon from Svelte Feather icon. Okay, so let's pass that in. And we're going to pass in So we can make, that's just a component. So chevron left icon, make it selfless. Now, that's going to cause a problem originally because we can't give this the name it needs. So we have to put it inside of a span. Span. Control X. And we're going to give this span the name. So now you give it slot. We're going to call this name is equal to it was left control, left control. So now I think it's I'm using the wrong syntax for slots. Let me make sure. Let's look at. I'll just go into documentation. Why not? Svelte slots. We're going to do a name slot. Next component slot fallback slot box slot. Show me name slots. Here we go. And we can say, yep, it's slot name. But inside the component, we're going to give it span. Oh, we get name slot. Okay. So the name, we're going to say slot. We're going to tell it what slot to put it in. And span slot is equal to. Having a problem. Let's see what our console is telling us. Svelte feather icon reference is not defined. Svelte feather icon. Let me make sure we actually got that into our package.json. Svelte feather icons. Oh, that's what I did wrong. Svelte feather icons. There she good. Okay, so we see we passed in this component, and if we can do the same thing with the right, so I only replaced the left one, now let's replace the right one with right, and the name of the slot that goes into is right control. Boom, and there you go. And if we leave those out, it'll go back to our fallback, which is our control ones. And I think when I was playing around with this afterwards, I had added in the ability to give it a color. So I'm going to give it another attribute, which is control color is equal to white. Boom. So now we've got this, and if I think I added in the other prop, control, what's it called, scale, and I may want to make it 0.8. Make it a little bit bigger. So, those are just things I added in when I was playing with the SVG afterwards, where I'm just putting it in those inline styles into the transform so that I could put those in. So what we have now is a functioning carousel element made completely out with Svelte's internal mechanisms, no external dependencies. Again, that Svelte feather icon was just for demonstration purposes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this into my repositories. My GitHub handle is BMW2621, and I'll call this Svelte Carousel, or I'll make up some name so that it's not colliding with Svelte Carousel. And if you want to pull it in, play with it, and see if you can edit it. There's still some things that we can add in, like some autoplay, or there's lots of things that you can continue to add in, and probably continue to make this a little bit better. Such as when I originally started building this, I was making a carousel that would deploy a modal when you click on it. So you may want to make these images tabbable. So there's ways to go about doing that. Not going to go into that tonight, but this gets us to where we wanted to go. We have, again, it's accessible, and we could probably add ARIA labels into here to make sure, but since it's buttons, it shouldn't be an issue. Give them names so accessibility readers will be able to know what to do. So hey, I appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter. My handle is B_M_Winchester, and tune back in, subscribe. Love to have y'all come visit. And I had a good time tonight. Y'all have a good one.